Welcome to the Comm-UNITY podcast, where we explore the stories that shape narratives about African giving and philanthropy. This week, we are thrilled to bring you a conversation with Joyeux Mugisho, a visionary who is on a mission to tackle the global climate crisis. He's doing this through the Gigatonne Challenge, which is a decentralized strategy aimed at reducing global carbon emissions. The Gigatonne Challenge is a global effort with teams from communities all over the world, including Uganda, that's working to make a difference. They are taking on the challenge of sustainability by focusing on initiatives like composting food waste, transitioning to zero emissions transportation, and afforestation. In just 48 to 60 months, this challenge has the potential to completely change the trajectory of the climate crisis. So tune in to this week's episode for an exciting and inspiring conversation about the progress being made and the impact of the Gigatonne Challenge. So you're most welcome to the Comm-UNITY podcast, Joyeux. Please tell our listeners about yourself, about the Gigatonne Challenge. I've heard about it, but I'm looking forward to them learning more about the Gigatonne Challenge and the work that you're doing around climate philanthropy and climate change. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Madonna. My name is Joyeux Mugisho. I identify myself as a climate and human rights activist. In activism, I look at I focus more on like displaced people, forcibly displaced people, such as refugees and internally displaced as street children and IDPs, and then asylum seekers as well. Those are the people that we focus more on, and then we also focus on the climate change activism. That's who I
am. Thanks for that very brief and succinct introduction. Just a quick one. Do the refugees that you're currently working with or the street children that you advocate for in any way participate in the climate work? Are they cross-cutting in any way, or are they, separate programs in a sense?
Well, in one way, the street children in Kampala, because I work with them in Kampala, do take part in the climate change activism. And this is indirectly because we have realized that street children actually, most of the people who actually pick plastic bottles all over town, and then they actually resell them for a small amount of money for survival. But then indirectly, they are actually helping in tackling the issues of climate change. That is what actually the key role that the street children are playing in the plastic bottle picking, and then as well as, of course, they also collect metals that are abandoned in different places and gather them in one place or resell. But indirectly, they are actually doing something for the climate as well. For the part of the refugees, of course, we've under Gigatonne Challenge, we have one team of called the Uganda Solutionist that is part of the challenge, and it has actually it is doing well. It is actually now going to level 3, which is actually one of the highest level that we have so far in Gigatonne Challenge. Yeah.
So you talk about the Gigatonne Challenge and levels. Level 3 being the highest at the moment. Could you take a few steps back and maybe share more about what the Gigatonne Challenge is for those that have not heard about it, what it takes, how you join, how that exactly works, and that juxtaposed against the climate challenge?
Sure. What's in simple term, what I can say the Gigatonne Challenge is, it's like it is a decentralized global climate strategy that come with a unique focus on equity. What I mean by equity is like giving back to the community. and we believe in action, in people taking part of what is happening. So what is normally happening in Gigatonne Challenge is that we train teams, and we try to make sure that they are involved in the challenge by tackling the climate crisis that the world is facing. And it has different kind of focus. And the first thing is that we do direct emission reduction. This is through a sustainable transport and waste process and clean energy. That is one of the things that we do. And in this, what I mean is that we encourage team to involve in the challenge. The challenge is we believe that if everyone is involved, and then every team is involved in what we are doing, we can actually reduce a lot of emission of carbon that is happening in the atmosphere. So these teams come together and actually join the challenge. In the first level, what we normally do is we encourage these teams to collect 1 ton of like to reduce 1 ton of emission. That means they have to look for waste, like different type of waste that they are going to collect and compost it to make sure that they are reducing emission. That is in level 1, and this is done in 2 weeks time. So in 2 weeks they have to collect and make sure that they are composting this 1 ton. And in doing that, they have to make sure that there's zero emission in transportation network. They also make sure that there is, of course, part of bit of equity. That means giving back to the community after composting. What do they do with the compost? They give it back to the community. They also involve the community that is affected to join the challenge. That is in simple term what we do in Gigatonne Challenge.
Okay, I like that it's a very community inclusive intervention. And as wondering, how does one, join one of those teams that we talked about?
So you're asking how does a team join?
Yes.
Well,
how is a team formed really?
Yes. Normally, some teams are recommended to 10 in 10, or which is under the Complexity University. Mm-hmm. Some others express their interest in joining the Complexity University. Different like in different courses. So sometimes they enroll into this and then they get trained by the Gigatonne. Yeah, that is actually how team join. Either they are recommended or they express their needs to join the team. Yeah. But sometimes also they are looked for, because there's a call most of the time for people to join the challenge.
Okay. Was climate previously part of your organization's strategy, or was there something that sort of stopped you in your tracks and you looked at it as a challenge that the organization needed to address at the time?
Well, honestly, we weren't thinking much about the climate. Well, more focused on human rights and refugees' rights, children's rights. And then somehow when we came across the issue of climate change, that's when we realized that, of course, there are no human without climate. The climates that we are talking about, if we are not taking care of this climate, we cannot talk about human rights, because then no one will have the rights to, no one will even be alive. So this pushed us to also be a bit more concerned about the challenge and also joining the climate activism. But before that, it wasn't really so much like it was like the Gigatonne challenge part of it is kind of different from what we understood about climate change. And we were focusing only on advocacy of the kind of advocacy that we just talk about it without doing any action.
So it's an action-based intervention or advocacy, not just advocacy with words, but you actually walk the talk.
Yes, the Gigatonne challenge is an action-based advocacy toward the challenge, the climate change.
Wow. So for how long have you been participating in this?
Well, I've been in Gigatonne for now almost 3 years.
Okay. And if you are to sort of reflect on how far you've come in addressing the climate challenge, what opportunities, what challenges, and maybe even victories? Because I know that the target is the Gigatonne, right? But along the way, you get to celebrate certain milestones. You talked about levels. Are there any wins and victories you'd like to share with us that you've encountered so far?
Yes. I talked about levels, and I'm looking at zero emission transport. I'm also talking about leveling up. This is the journey that we take. So what do we do with teams in Gigatonne? So one I said is direct emission reduction. Two is zero emission transport network, and I'm looking also at leveling up. Leveling up is we're talking about levels. This is 10 times every level. So we build a system that actually increase the impact by 10 times every time they go to each level. And then I look at real-time environmental sensor network. And lastly, we look at food security through composting and food production. This is what's actually the benefit that comes with Gigatonne challenge, but also we look at job creation, which is equity. That's the focus that we have of equity. So this level, these teams join, and then they keep on growing up per level. So from level 1, they will be we're looking at 1 ton, and then level 2, 10 tons in 3 months, and then level 3, we are looking at 30 tons, and so we are growing up like bit by bit. But then it comes with a beauty of connecting the community, but also the fulfillment of equity, whereby when you are doing the composting, giving it back to the community and doing food production or under food security, it helps the community. It's not only you reducing the emission, but we are also producing food for the community, which is also fulfilling. And personally, I've met a lot of young people who are energetic, who are actually very passionate about climate change. And this is something that is also great and a benefit from being part of the challenge. Yeah.
Wow. You talked about communities, youth. It's a very, what should I say, maybe an interactive, it's not a journey that you can walk alone in a sense. So who has enabled this journey for you? Are there mentors? Are there funders, volunteers, foundations that have supported you in addressing the climate challenge?
Well, as I said, the Gigatonne challenge is it's under what we call Complexity University, or 10 in 10. And it has been made possible by Complexity University, which is also which has worked with different other organizations before, and still actually trying to make sure that different people and partners in the climate action join and in supporting these teams, because of course under Complex University, when this team join, there's a bit of financial support that is needed, such as to help the team have some equipment that they will use in collecting. For instance, if they chose general waste or food waste, they have to be collecting food waste in different either hotels or markets and different places. They may need gumboots, they may need overalls, sometimes they need spades, or they need different kind of things that they use. Sometimes they build wooden carts, and all these require finances, and this has been actually being supported by Complexity University. And of course, there are different people who are well-wishers and donors who are actually supporting Complexity University to make it possible.
Okay. And there, as you've done this work within Uganda, with Ugandans supported by Complexity University, are there any special trends that you're noticing in how Ugandans address the climate challenge? Maybe if you're to, or do you apply the same kind of interventions across the board in Africa when you're participating in the Gigatonne challenge? I don't know, maybe it's a very long question, but the special trends that you're noticing in how Ugandans deal with the climate challenge vis-a-vis other spaces that you have been a part of?
Yes, I like that question. Well, in Uganda, we have different teams. So I talked to you about the Uganda Solutionist. This is a group of young refugees who are actually part of the team, and this is the highest. They are the ones who have been in the highest level so far because they started before others, and they have just gone to level 4, which they are soon starting. Then we have another team in Bali called Bali Youth Community Network. We also have another team in Butabika, which is Butabika Empowerment Group. Then we have a team in Gulu and Iganga. All these teams are composed of Ugandans, and they have actually embraced the action-based advocacy towards the climate change. And I can see the enthusiasm and also the love that they have for the climate, and how passionate they are about the challenge. And I think it is still the same. We do the same thing in different countries. For instance, we have teams in India, we have teams in Spain, we have a team even in. There are many places such as South Africa and other parts of like Zambia, and then in Kenya, even in the US, there's a team. So these teams have been actually doing the same challenge all over.
Wow. Are there any lessons that you're learning about the climate crisis that you'd like to share with our listeners, or especially those that are stressed out about the impact of climate change? They're trying to figure out where to even start addressing this without, solving the entire problem, because, well, that would be a very tall order. But in their communities where they are, how do they start? Any words of wisdom for them?
One thing I can say to the community in Uganda is to try to see how they can join the challenge. The challenge is for everyone. And what I've realized is that we throw waste anyhow and anywhere, but we do not realize the impact that it has on the climate crisis that we have. For instance, we can see how restaurants throw food waste all over, but then they do not understand how much emission this is generating by just putting it under the sun, leaving it that way. So what we can encourage people is to try their best to start taking action in making sure that they have a place where they keep their waste, which is well protected, not under sun, of course. They have a very well channel of waste collection, and they have to also question the waste collectors where they are taking the waste, because we do not expect them to just pick our waste from our home and then go and burn it, because that is actually creating more issues than the solution. So we should also hold our leaders into account in how they actually take care of the waste that we give them when they are collecting the waste? And how can we, like as a community, how can we come together and make sure that we help each other in tackling this issue of the climate? Yeah, I believe that if every house has a compost place, it could be a pit that is well covered, or it could be a shelter that is not under the sun, and also, yeah, making sure that they know where the waste is going and how it's being treated. It will actually also help a lot in reducing the emissions that we are having on a daily basis.
So thank you for that. Are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners?
Well, our goal in 2023 is to actually have 250 teams. So we encourage everyone who's willing to join, as well as the philanthropists and also other donors in order to support this challenge, which is action based, to support these teams, because if these teams are actually empowered and supported, they are actually going to bring a solution in a very short time to come about the challenge, the climate challenge that we have.
Wow. Thank you, Joyeux, for sharing the story of the Gigatonne challenge and that final call to action. I think our conversation covered how they can join this team and join the Gigatonne challenge. We commend the work that you're doing and continue to wish you all the best as an organization and as the team that is driving us towards achieving the goal of the Gigatonne challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure, Madonna. Thank you so much.